You wake up thirsty. 3 steps to a tap. 2 seconds of running water, filtered through systems you'll never see, tested against standards you've never read, and you don't think about any of it, not even once today. Now, take all of that away. Put yourself on the bank of a slow brown river 10,000 years ago. Downstream is where your entire camp cooks, bathes, relieves itself. And that same current, muddy and warm, is what you're about to drink from because there is no other option and there never has been. You've never once wondered if your water might kill you. Not at the kitchen sink, not at the gym fountain, not on a hike with a bottle in your pack. For most of human history, that question wasn't paranoia. It was Tuesday. So, how did people survive tens of thousands of years, drinking from the same water they cooked in, washed in, and dumped their waste into, centuries before anyone had the faintest idea what a bacterium even was? Start with a hole in the ground. In 2012, dendrochronologist Willy Teagle and his colleagues at the University of Freiburg examined timber-lined wells uncovered near Leipzig in Saxony, Germany. Using tree ring dating, they traced the wood to somewhere between 5,469 and 5,098 BCE. One well, near the town of Eithra, came in at over 7,100 years old. That's not even the surprising part. The surprising part is the joinery. The oak beams were locked together with corner-notch carpentry so precise that when archaeologists first saw it, several assumed they were looking at medieval construction, not the work of Stone Age farmers. And this wasn't a one-off. Researchers have since mapped a dozen early Neolithic wells across the same region, all using the same techniques, all reaching for groundwater no camp waste, no footprint, no animal carcass had ever touched. They weren't drinking from the river anymore. They were engineering their way underneath it. Everyone assumes early humans just knelt at the river and drank whatever they found, hoping for the best. The truth is, deliberate water engineering goes back further than most people think. Wells like these prove Neolithic communities were actively avoiding contamination thousands of years before anyone could explain what germs were. So if people were already this capable 7,000 years ago, why does dirty water still sound like a primitive problem? Because engineering wasn't the only tool. Go to the banks of the Nile in Sudan. For generations, local women had been crushing the seeds of the Moringa oleifera tree and stirring the powder into buckets of muddy river water. In 1998, engineers Anselme Endebegengeser and Kesobanarasaya ran that practice through laboratory jar tests and published their results in the journal Water Research. The seed proteins bind to suspended particles and drag them to the bottom. Their measurements showed turbidity, the cloudiness that hides bacteria and parasites, dropping by more than 90% within a couple of hours. Compared to alum, the industrial coagulant modern treatment plants still rely on, the effective dose of crushed moringa seed came out almost identical. No fire, no filter you'd recognize, no chemistry lecture, just a tree that already grew on the riverbank, and knowledge passed down for generations before a single lab confirmed it was right. Everyone assumes boiling was the obvious ancient fix for dirty water. The truth is, boiling demands abundant fuel, hours of tending a fire, and a vessel that can survive the heat, three things a lot of ancient communities didn't reliably have. Settling, filtering, and plant-based coagulants were often the realistic first line of defense. Fire was the expensive option, not the default one. Jump forward to Rome in 97 CE. That year, the Emperor Nerva appointed Sextus Julius Frontinus as curator aquarum, Rome's water commissioner. Frontinus did something almost nobody in his position had bothered to do. He wrote it all down. His report, De Aqueductu, describes piscinae, settling tanks built directly into the aqueduct route, where water was made to slow down and sit until sediment sank, before it ever reached a public fountain. By the era he was writing in, Rome ran 11 aqueducts, some drawing from springs more than 90 kilometers away, dropping in elevation by as little as 1 meter for every 200 meters of channel. Just enough slope to keep water moving without a single pump. Together, they delivered more than 1 million cubic meters of water a day to a city of roughly 1 million people, close to 1,000 liters per person, more than plenty of modern cities manage. This wasn't guesswork. It was a civil engineering system built entirely around one idea. Water needed to rest before anyone drank it. They didn't know what a pathogen was. They just knew that still water got safer and moving water got dangerous. Here's where it gets strange. Because in 2016, University of Cambridge researcher Piers Mitchell published a review in the journal Parasitology that checked Rome's homework. Mitchell compiled parasite evidence, whipworm and roundworm eggs, mostly, from more than 50 archaeological sites scattered across the empire. Latrines, cesspits, burials, preserved feces. He expected infection rates to drop compared with the Bronze and Iron Ages that came before. They didn't. If anything, they held steady, or climbed. Everyone assumes better plumbing automatically means better health. The truth is, Rome's public bathhouses, shared by thousands, not drained or cleaned nearly often enough, may have spread parasites as efficiently as they washed people. Roman farmers also spread human waste on their fields as fertilizer, sometimes before it had time to break down, sending parasite eggs right back to the food supply. Rome had solved the plumbing, it hadn't solved the biology. Those turned out to be two very different problems. So, what actually kept people alive all those thousands of years before anyone understood germs? Not one invention, not one hero moment. A slow accumulation, a well dug a little deeper, a settling tank built into a stone channel, generation after generation, quietly noticing that stillness helps, that certain plants help, that distance from waste helps, without ever knowing the biological reason why. The real answer isn't a technology, it's a habit of noticing, passed down by people who never once saw a bacterium, and somehow still got closer to the truth than centuries of engineering managed on its own. Picture that riverbank again, the mud, the current, the whole camp depending on the same water for everything it does. Now picture your tap. 2 seconds, and it's over. You don't check, you don't wonder, you don't think about the thousands of years of trial and death that had to happen so you wouldn't have to. And here's the part that should sit with you longer than it probably will. Right now, in 2024, roughly 1 billion people, 1 in 4 people alive, still don't have that. Still stand where you're standing in that opening scene, without ever getting to stand where you're standing now. Clean water was never really about the water. It was about who gets to stop thinking about it.